Good morning. Before we get started, please like and subscribe. Please share my channel. Please comment whether you agree with me or not. Thank you for being here. I love having you here. Today, I would like to talk about the current events, what's going on in the world, in society, in America, and how it affects us, how it can affect us one way or the other. So give me one moment here. There normally are no cars here, and today there are all the cars here. So the red light must have just let out. Okay, so I am safely in my lane. So there are things going on in the world, in politics. This isn't going to be a political video. I'm not going to talk about the politics themselves. I'm not going to talk about the policies and what's happening and who's doing what. But what I do want to talk about is the negative response versus a positive response. There are two ways, actually there are more than two ways. There are limitless number of ways we can look at life, but I'm going to focus on two. So we have things going on right now in America. America just voted in a new president. Some people love him, some people hate him. It almost seems like you can't do anything in between because of the things that he stands for are things that are very, very polarized, I guess. They're subjects, especially social subjects, that he stands for that are, it's almost like you have to be completely way on this side or completely way on that side to either agree with him or disagree with him, because he is a completely all in, all this or all that kind of president. It's either you're with him or you're against him sort of thing. And the things that he is proposing and the things that he's been doing are things that some people wanted him to do, and some people do not like the way he's going about it. Some people didn't want him to do these things at all, but even some of the ones who did want him to do the things don't like the way he's doing it. So that's just a little bit of background on what's going on in America. I think most people in the world probably know about the tariffs and know about all these things that are happening that kind of almost dividing up the world, breaking down world systems, world currencies, all the finances, everything. It was kind of, shaken up, and I said in another video, it's like it's being shaken like a snow globe. So things are being broken down, and there are social issues that are happening. There are deportations happening. There are, families, some people are being harmed by these policies, and some people just can't stand to see the harm it's causing, and other people say, well, they deserve it, and this should be happening, and it's a long time coming. So I'm not here to say which is right or which is wrong or what viewpoint anybody else should have, and I'm not even going to talk about my personal viewpoint. But what I am going to say is, with all this going on, I'm noticing that there are kind of two general types of responses. One response is to say, oh, this is really, really, really bad. I mean, this is bad. This is so bad. And it's going to get worse. And it's almost like, I almost wanted to say the sky is falling, kind of a mentality like, oh, this is so awful. And then they don't just stop there at this is so awful right now and what's happening right now. They go ahead and project into the future, and it's going to get worse. So that's one thing that I'm seeing a lot of are people who are basically saying that because of the chaos of what's being done right now, it's going to then cause this and this and this. People are talking in America about a recession. At first, when all these things were implemented, people said we might have a recession. Then where there's a likely chance we could have a recession. Then there's a likely chance we're going to have a recession. Now they're saying, look out, recession ahead. And so these are predictions. People are making predictions based on the data that they're shown, and based on what's going on, and based on what has happened in the past. These are all things that are being predicted. And some people are taking those things that are being predicted and kind of, like I said, projecting into the future with it, and they're allowing that to create fear in them, or to create anxiety in them, or to create, even if it's not creating fear or anxiety, they're feeling they need to prepare. And there's nothing wrong with preparing. There's nothing at all wrong with preparing, as long as you're not doing it in a panic. If you're panic preparing, that's like, I lived in Florida for almost 14 years, and every time they'd say storm or hurricane, the shelves would be wiped clean. Like, there would be nothing. You know, that's called panic shopping. A storm is coming somewhere. It's somewhere down off the coast of Cuba, and it might go this way or that way or this way or that way, and everybody would just wipe off the shelves 5 days before the storm even arrived, even if it did arrive. That's called panic shopping. And so some people are doing that. Some people are not in a panic, but they're still shopping. They're still getting supplies. They're basically, you know, making sure that they hoard supplies now and keep them on hand, just in case, because they don't want to run out of canned goods. And I mean, it's probably always a good idea to have supplies, no matter what's happening in life. If you have the space in your home, it's probably a good idea to go to the store and get some cases of things, just in case. I mean, if you need it, if you've got room for it. So I don't see anything wrong with that. But wiping off the shelves, completely wiping the shelves bare because people are panicking, that just gets a little bit overboard. Because what ends up happening is, you know, there's nothing. It's not the recession ends up not being the reason there's no food. The reason there's no food is because everybody hoarded it. So I'm sorry, it's not funny. It really isn't. But it's funny to me because I lived in Florida and we saw it. I mean, you would walk into a store and literally the shelves would be completely bare, and you're like, I just came in for a bottle of water. Like, what the heck? Everybody's got 100 bottles of water somewhere stashed in their closets, and I can't get one bottle of water 3 days before the storm. So usually it's not the storm itself that causes the problems. Usually it's the people panicking that end up causing other people to not have. But, you know, then there's the other side of it. There are also people who are reacting or responding to what's going on in the world today with love and concern for their fellow neighbors, and in gathering together as a community, and basically, you know, putting our phones down and knocking on people's doors and getting to know our neighbors. My community we're doing things like that, and honestly, the community I live in now has really always been that way to an extent. It's I live in the middle of Amish country, and the people in this area, there are farmers here, there are people that are into agriculture, there are all kinds of businesses here. This is a central hub of the state of Pennsylvania. It's where all the traffic goes through, delivering goods and supplies through here. And you have all kinds of people, from the military to, like I said, farmers and agriculture, to people running businesses. And you just have all kinds of really, you know, it's a diverse area. And people, you know, one of the reasons that my son wanted to move here and that I moved along with him is because this is a very community-oriented place. And when I say community-oriented, don't get me wrong, when cell phones came out, yes, we all had our cell phones in our hand, and you see people still at the restaurants, you know, holding their phones. I'm not going to say nobody has a phone. I'm not going to say that people don't have their noses in their phones. However, people here did not seem to have lost their sense of community. Even with cell phones and technology, people did not really become isolationists to where it's all me first and me and mine, and as long as I have mine, I don't care if you have yours. It's really never been that way here. I think that just because of, you know, history and the way that people were raised, and the fact that a lot of people were born and raised here, had their children here, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, they stayed in their family nucleus, and they stayed in an area where they went to high school with people, and they stayed in an area, my high school friends are just an hour away from me, and so there's a sense of roots and a sense of solidarity, a sense of community here. And that has just been magnified by all the news of all the things that are about to happen or could happen. I'm noticing the people here in this community are responding with more neighborly love, with how can I help you, with do you have enough groceries, with, I have a good job, I see you don't have a job, is there anything I can do to help you? Maybe I can help you with your resume. Or, neighbors helping neighbors, basically. It's a really beautiful thing to see. And when I have a friend who lives on the West Coast in a really big city, I used to live there, and she was telling me, she's going to go out to the store and get, make sure she's stocked up, and we were talking about the community here and what they're doing here, and she said, well, I don't think people are seeing it that way here. And it's a bigger city. It's a much bigger city, and it's a city that is the kind of the hub of technology, one of the hubs of technology in America. And it's very different where she lives as opposed to where I live. So we have two different perspectives on the thing. I'm just saying, well, let's get through this by, just being part of the community. And her way of looking at it is, well, there aren't that many community, events, or there aren't that many things going on in the community here that's bringing people together. Everybody just gets in their car and goes their separate ways. And so that makes sense. Different parts of the country, different parts of the world have different outlooks, different people, different ways of looking at it. However, that all being said, no matter where we live in the world, no matter where we are, whether we're on an island somewhere with just a few dozen people, whether we live in a big city where it's just, all the cars and the traffic and everybody hustling and bustling, or whether we live in a small community, small town, or a medium-sized town, city, each and every one of us has inside of us a sense of community. We each have the ability to join in and to create. If a sense of community isn't being created where you live, let it start with you. Let it start with me. If I ever leave this city and go somewhere else and they're not gathering together in this way, it doesn't mean that I can't start creating groups. Maybe because I have, that experience of being in groups and how wonderful it is to be sharing and caring and bartering and helping other people, bartering with and helping other people. Once you've experienced that, if you move to somewhere else and that's not happening, then go ahead and be the change. But if you've never been anywhere that has happened, you can start then too. I mean, all it really takes is to put the phone down for a few minutes a day, knock on some doors, get to know your neighbors, see if anybody needs anything, ask if anybody needs any help, maybe start a Facebook group of, a community group. This group is just, maybe call your group Neighbors Helping Neighbors, or, community peace, or whatever it is you want to name your group. But start a group, get some active participants. And the way that my city is doing this is they did start a Facebook group. They're active on social media, but they're also just going around knocking on doors. They started with like 3 or 4 people. One of our guys is running for mayor, and he was going out kind of canvassing, and he had several people who were canvassing with him, and they thought, while we're out here canvassing, some people wanted to join along with them. And one of the main reasons that people like the idea of this guy becoming mayor is because he's out there active in the community. And those are the key words, active in the community. So we can all be active in our communities. And what happened with his, team of people canvassing, people were volunteering and going out there, and they were noticing that there was some trash in the streets. They'd go out and pick up the trash. We have another guy out there that goes out on the weekends with a group of people, and they pick up the trash. And then they post their videos on Facebook, and they say that, this is how we spent our weekend. We went out and we picked up trash. And so, we have the ability to do things. We have the ability to get things done. Each and every one of us can start a community group. We can start, even if it's only us. Now, in this case, the case of the the guy who's running for mayor here, people started to see what he was doing, and they started to say, I want to join up. When can I come join you next weekend? And then now they're getting a bigger and bigger gathering of people who are doing this. So anyway, I mean, you can have a large crowd of people out there doing these things, or you can have just you and a friend, or you and a neighbor, or just you. But one way or another, I think that when we start to have issues, problems, tragedies, this would not be the first recession we've been through. And I'm not going to downplay a recession. I'm not going to downplay the Great Depression or anything that has caused people a lot of suffering. But this would not be the first. And when these things happen, when economic strife hits us, I think the best response to it is to let it grow our hearts. Let us grow us in love. Let us help our community. Let us be there for our neighbors. Let's do that. So instead of, being afraid and going out and hoarding all the groceries, and I'm not saying, again, to have food is not a bad thing, especially if you have a family. You want to have enough food. But, I think that rather than panicking in fear and wiping off the shelves, I think personally, I see my community being productive. I see my community reaching out, and I love that. I just love that. And I wanted to share it because if anybody else out there is feeling the pain of what's going on economically right now, or what's going on in the world right now, I just really highly recommend reaching out to another human being and get to know them, see if they need anything. Find other people. There's always somebody who needs something. So if you have the means, reach out to your neighbors. You don't have to, like I said, you don't have to start a big giant movement, but just reach out to somebody. Let things happen in your heart. And I think that a lot of the times when there's suffering tends to bring people together. When 9/11 happened, all the people just came together for that moment and for a little while, for a short time. But sometimes it needs to happen for more than one day, because people kind of lost that sense of community. 3 days later, people were kind of back to their normal lives. But if suffering goes on for a while, I think it helps us to adjust to being one with our communities and one with other people. So that's what I wanted to share today. I'm hoping that things don't get as bad as some people are predicting, but if they do, I did just want to share my take on it, and the fact that I personally believe that, that coming from the heart and being there for other people is the best way to handle hardship. So that's all I have to say for today. I hope you're all having a great day, and I will see you next time.